Thank you. Lovely to see you all again. I'm sure you're extremely excited to see the final masterpiece. If you can bear with me for 10 more minutes, I'm just going to close the loop on what you all did so fantastically yesterday with collaborative art. So we came over from Geneva. As you know, we run these collaborative art workshops. Just something I didn't mention yesterday. I did say myself and Uli were professional artists in Geneva, Switzerland, but maybe you're curious to see a little bit of our work. You can come and see this on the stage when we've finished talking. This is an example of Uli's work. She's got some bears in there too. In case you've seen some in Aspen, you might want to have a look. And myself and Uli share an art studio near Geneva, and we joke that Uli is the Zen one in this partnership, and I am the energy, because my work is a little bit more colorful, stronger colors, and slightly crazier. So we are energy and Zen, and that's why this business is working, because we complement each other. So without you, and also everybody here that has helped us in Aspen and from HealthSpotter, this workshop and all of your work in the workshop, it wouldn't have been possible. So thank you for that. So what we do in a nutshell is we use art, being artists, as a tool to stimulate creativity, collaboration, and inspiration. And hopefully you got a real good taste of that yesterday. I want to mention something about having a framework in the workshop yesterday. We actually we wanted to make a point about the paradox of structure. And I've used this image here again to make a metaphor for you. There's an experiment where they have children in a playground which is unfenced, and another playground where it is fenced. And actually the children in the fenced playground actually utilize the space to its maximum versus the children who have no boundaries and no fence. They stay close together in a safe zone. And this is why we added some elements of structure in the creative workshop yesterday. One thing that is interesting to observe in all the groups is we all react differently to structure. Some of us like to have some structure, and some of us feel limited by it. So you will all have your own individual experience of that yesterday. Something else I hope you noticed, especially the first group, maybe all of you, creativity takes courage. We saw some very skeptical, even scared eyes looking at us yesterday in the workshops. And I hope you feel you overcame a little scary moment in your comfort zone working in the workshop. Creativity is also about connecting the unconnected, and I'd like to look at some examples. This is actually my son walking to school. So my day, even when I'm not working, is extremely creative and enriching. He looks like he's wearing a Mexican sombrero on his head, yet you can see he has no hat on. And he discovered this all by himself. He's 5 years old. The sombrero part is actually the street lamp, but we don't really see where it's coming from. And he stopped, and we were in a hurry, late for school, and he said, "Mummy, Mummy, stop, look." I turned around and I saw the upside down version of him wearing a Mexican sombrero on his head. So he made a connection with the unconnected there. I'd like to show you what you are doing with your connections. You can see that example 1, this came from group A yesterday, and they were creating, we had 6 groups creating 6 symbols. And this is an example from the consumer-centric, which actually started as patient-centric in the original brainstorm, and it got tweaked through the processes, through the groups, to consumer-centric, with the red heart there in the middle. Then group B tweaked it, and they added an eye for the eye looking over the taking care of the consumer, and they added a little bit meaning and sort of movement into it as well. And then example 3, we see how the connections were made with the visual metaphors from the ideas, that for simplicity we start with a lever. The dot on the lever is actually the consumer. The straight line is the path, and the triangle is the balance part. And the group B actually shifted that a little bit further. They wanted the consumer part to have a little bit more importance. So we see almost like the head of a man now becoming this simplicity with the yin-yang inside the heart. So we see how Group B was inspired by Group A, and this was happening throughout the day yesterday between all the groups. And what actually happened, number 5, is what the final prototype in Group C developed that into. They wanted to bring a bit more balance into it, and they actually put the consumer inside with the heart inside the simplicity symbol. So two symbols merged. Here is the outcome of Group B, where there were 2 teams creating 2 prototypes. We see the 6 symbols, the 6 key factors. You've got trust, you have, and I'll explain that when I reveal the masterpiece, you have good health, you have the consumer, which is the heart, inside the simplicity symbol, and the thing on the right-hand side that is a bit jiggly, that is the knowledge, and it's encased by the sunshine. I'll explain more the meaning in a moment. The second prototype, they've used the same symbols, but composed them, connected them in a different way. Now, Group C's challenge at the end of the day was to take the best of these 2 prototypes, keep what they liked, look at what could have been lacking, and change if necessary. So we're going to see shortly the result of all of your work. Something else important in the creative phase is it's really easy to make the simple complicated. And what about if we make the complicated simple? And that was something that really came out when we were watching you working with your symbols and your compositions yesterday. And the process of making it simple is a creative process. Here's another example with the simplicity. We took the example of the social community symbol. So you have Group A, where it's actually still quite complex, and the Group B were inspired to simplify a little bit further. So how do we inspire greatness? I mean, this was all about art and inspiration. I don't know, have any of you watched the movie Invictus? This was a film I watched just last week, and I had an aha moment when watching it on holiday. There's a speech between the rugby captain in South Africa and Nelson Mandela, who's played by Morgan Freeman. And Nelson Mandela is asking the rugby captain, how do you inspire your rugby team? And the captain answers, I think I do it by leading by example. And Mandela is like, yeah, that's good. And he said, what if it's also by using the work of others? Actually, what happens in the film is his political career, he gains the trust and the belief of the country by using the rugby team in a positive sense to spur everybody on to come together. And this is what I believe is happening in collaborative art as well. Through your work of creating a masterpiece, you come together and you believe you can do the impossible almost. So this is the moment I hope you have been waiting for. The secret of achievement is to hold a picture, even a shared picture, of a successful outcome in mind, and this is your vision. We're going to have a little drum roll, I believe. This is your vision of the consumer experience of healthcare. Do we have? So we were working in Juan Miró style, so I'm sure you would like me to explain these surreal symbols a little bit to you so that you understand the story. So 6 symbols. We're going to start with trust. And that was represented by this sun. And the reason for that was they wanted to look at trust in terms of reliability. And they wanted a symbol that symbolized something you can rely on. And it was the sunrise coming up every day was their symbol for trust. The next symbol, which we had a look at in the presentation here, this is the social community in its diversity of overlapping, interconnecting groups, different kinds of groups. And this sort of tail that comes off here is a sign for the connection to the virtual world as well, so like a little Apple cable or something. The next symbol here, we have the pathway to vitality and health. So this is the symbol for good health. And it is grounded with roots, which group B changed from tree roots into more of a foundation, solid foundation. This is for the good health. And because that was considered extremely important by your groups, they have echoed that in the final masterpiece, the vitality spiral here. Over here, this symbol here is the tree of knowledge to represent the knowledge. I'm going to change sides. Coming out of the tree of knowledge, we have the binary code, but some of them are transforming into little human beings, maybe almost Keith Haring human beings coming out here. And in the tree, we almost have an eye of knowledge, which is also looking over this symbol here, which is the consumer with the heart, and the consumer is inside the simplicity symbol. So the eye is taking care also, this knowledge is looking after your consumer. And in terms of the coloring, I believe I've covered the 6 symbols there. I have 2 more things to point out. In terms of the coloring, the group wanted the emphasis to be on the consumer because it was believed that's the center of everything. So the colors chosen for the symbols around, they wanted to keep them a bit more low-key so that the focus visually when you look at the painting comes over here. The final group added some extra touches as well, which were not seen in Group B's prototypes. First of all, we have the eye looking after the consumer, but what about the ear of you listening to the consumer? So they added that in. And the final little cherry on the cake, which was seen in Group B's prototypes, but this was Group C's remix in their own words. It's when you have a consumer experience reflected like this, with all those elements in it, key factors, you reduce fear down to a small dot like this. So that's the interpretation of your amazing masterpiece. It's very difficult to measure success, especially in something as flowy as art and creating. There's no wrong or right. So my measure of success in life, both personal and professional, is inspired by Benjamin Zander's definition of success, which is how many shiny eyes are around you. And I hope that you will remember that message, if nothing else, from the collaborative art, that you look around you to see how many shiny eyes are around you, and if they are shining, you'll know you're doing something really good. And thank you for playing and painting with us yesterday. Well done.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.